Roger in Kingswood, to your question. Is there anything to stop people like me being left behind with more and more smartphones? There is a difference. The brick phone, as we called it, only yesterday on the programme, talking about digital media. And then, of course, the smartphone, which isn't really a phone, it's a mini PC where you can, if you choose, make phone calls. Well, let's speak to Professor Kevin Curran, who is a Professor of Cybersecurity at Ulster University. Kevin, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John.
It's a really interesting topic that Roger raises here, because it did come up on one of yesterday's conversations about whether children should have smartphones. Why not just give them the brick phone, where they can make and receive a phone call and send a text until they're a little bit older? Because if parents are just worried about connecting with their children to and from school, well, all they need is that. And a lot of people do feel left out, Kevin, on the other side of the coin, that they don't get it, they don't understand it, but they feel they're missing out.
Yeah, absolutely. Dumbphones are a great idea for young children because they're simple, and you get the calls. You're even able to, in a lot of these Dumbphones, you're able to have maps on there. Because my son, who was born with a digital, with a silver spoon when it comes to digital equipment and everything else, he gave up his smartphone a few years ago because of distractions and everything else. And he managed to go about 3 years with the dumbest phones ever. But even that, so I could still message him, I could still use WhatsApp, and he could use maps when he needed.
Yeah.
And of course, but of course, with children, for instance, they're quite durable. You can drop these things from the roof of your house, and they'll still work. They're cheaper. Again, the costs are, you don't have to, and of course, you're still able to contact your kids. They're able to contact you, and of course, they don't have as many distractions with the social media and everything else. Again, so that they can be a wonderful alternative to smartphones as well. But again, just like you're saying, smartphones have become the hub of our life. Really, the computers in our pocket, and frighteningly so. Again, there's an awful lot of people who don't have any access. Actually, that Age UK came out with research there about 8 months ago. 25% of people over 65 in the UK don't use the internet. Again, so and again,
and they're being driven to it, though, Kevin, aren't they? Because these are the days when it says whether it's your gas bill or your council tax bill or your banking or whatever, is that there aren't branches for these things. There are apps for these things, which requires you to have a smartphone. It's almost someone like Roger. He can't escape it, because if he wants to do his banking or find out how much his gas bill is going to be next month, he needs an app, because he won't be able to do it any other way.
Absolutely true. It's one of the things which scares me the most about the future, is how older people, especially older people with no families, will survive. In the end, why my son went back to a smartphone about 12 months ago was because he had a simple job in Costa, and he had to have a smartphone to be able to log in and his attendance. He was, yes, goodness. Either he had a smartphone or he couldn't take the job. And that's just one example. Again, so banks are being shut down everywhere else. And of course, Age UK came out with great stuff saying that, governments should make all services, just like you're saying, so many of our crucial services now are online only. And Age UK came out and says, listen, every government service should have an offline mirror as well, because not everyone is using the internet, of course. But of course, will that happen? I doubt it, because again, governments boast about digital services and being online and everything else, and of course, it does save money, but at the expense of people who don't have any access to online services again. And there will be people in the future who won't be able to get their cash, whatever else, because there is no face-to-face postal services, no banking service in the future. They'll have to trust a proxy. So in essence, poor old Roger, is there anything to stop people like me being left behind? No, is the answer. He will be left behind. That's the brutal truth. Or is there a way of doing it? No, unfortunately not. It's because everything is moving online. Again, and unless you have a network, and again, trusted people again, and it's becoming just more. There's going to be a wider gulf between those who are online and those who are not online, and that's why I never can say, blank card. Don't give your children access to tablets or phones or whatever else, because of course, Of course, that's simple to block them from bullying and from seeing content online. But unfortunately, the first day, for instance, if they turn up at university, we will expect them to be able to access this, to be able to scan barcodes, turn on multi-factor authentication, turn Word documents into PDFs, email here, email there, convert this. We will expect these things will be given, so they would be at a disadvantage. Because everything is
and that's
no simplistic answers.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the world, isn't it? So Roger is obviously, there are people who've got lots of phones in the drawers, and they've evolved from the brick phone up to the mobile phone. But if they don't want to do it, the chances are they're not going to be able to use the QR code or this or that, or whatever else. It's fascinating. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on BBC Radio Bristol. Really good to have you talk through the realities of this. Professor Kevin Curran, Professor of Cybersecurity at Ulster University. Many thanks indeed. And there you go, Roger. There's the brutal truth of this, which is sort of what we talked about only yesterday. It would be lovely, wouldn't it, just to have a, mobile phone that made phone calls, received phone calls, texted. You could play Snake on it. That game where the snake got bigger and then was going faster and faster and faster. And that was it. And if you dropped it down the loo, not that you'd do that, of course, it wouldn't matter because you'd pick it up and give it a shake and it was fine. You could, I'm not suggesting you could drop it out the window. But then, you have a smartphone and your 14-year-old daughter gets out of the car on a Sunday, and I take her back to her mum's and drops it on the pavement and smashes the screen. And that's all hell breaks loose, which... that's what smartphones are. Anyway, keep the questions coming. Roger, your question, your answer done. We'll return to this on Monday. After the news with Nikki, what have I got for you? I have got